What is good, y'all? This video is a parody of WonderWhy's series called Winners and Losers. It is in the description and pinned comment if you want to see it, by the way. This Winners and Losers parody will be talking about the provinces and territories of Canada. If you don't know already, there are 10 provinces: British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador. And there are 3 territories, which are Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. Okay, let's get to the video now. We'll be first looking at size. The largest division of Canada is Nunavut, at almost 2 million square kilometers, followed by Quebec at number 2. If Nunavut was its own country, it would be the 14th largest country by land area and the 13th largest country by total area, even larger than Mexico, and Canada would drop from being the 2nd largest to the 7th largest by area, behind Australia. In 3rd place spot is the Northwest Territories, which, even though they're the 3rd largest, they used to be even bigger. Matter of fact, this is actually the smallest that the Northwest Territories has ever been. It used to be more than 70 to 80% of Canada's land area since its inception when Rupert's Land and the Northwestern Territory united and joined Canada. Hell, even prior to the 1999, when Nunavut joined Canada, they were the largest subdivision by area in the world, even ahead of the current largest subdivision, the Saha Republic of Russia. Even if they're at their lowest, they currently are the 12th largest subdivision by area in the world. If you're wondering, Quebec is ranked number 10 and Nunavut is ranked number 5. On the other side of the spectrum, the top 3 smallest are New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. PEI is only 5.6 thousand square kilometers. For reference, this is what PEI looks like when scaled up next to Nunavut. Dang. If PEI was its own country, it would be the 165th largest country, larger than Trinidad and Tobago, but smaller than Brunei. Here's a map that shows the flag of which country's size is closest to each province and territory of Canada. So, like, for example, Ontario is like around the same size as Mauritania, for example, you know. Oh, and here's a text version if you're not good with flags. Now we'll get into population. The most populated division of Canada, by far actually, is Ontario with 15.3 million people, followed by Quebec with 8.7 and British Columbia with 5.3. Ontario has 38.9 of all of Canada's population, and if Ontario and Quebec alone has more people than every other province and territory combined. If Ontario was its own country, it would be the 73rd most populous country in the world, ahead of Zimbabwe, and Canada would drop from the 37th most populous to the 56th most populous, behind Cameroon. On top of that, Ontario has 9 of the top 20 largest cities in Canada, most of which are in the Greater Toronto area, or at least close to that. Now, this is because of what's called the Quebec City-Windsor Corridor, the most densely populated region of Canada, which has 18 million of the 40 million Canadians living in this region. Here's a map that shows 50% of Canada's population in red and 70% of Canada's population in light red. Second place, Quebec has only 4 of Canada's top 20 largest cities, all of which are a part of the Quebec City-Windsor Corridor as well. And 3rd place, British Columbia, only has 2. On the other side of things, the top 3 least most populated divisions are Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Nunavut. With a population of only 40,000, it would be the 188th most populated country, meaning it would place in the top 10 smallest country by population. The aforementioned Prince Edward Island has more people than Nunavut. In fact, 130,000 more people. And only 13 of Ontario's census divisions have less people than Nunavut. Even the divisions in the sparsely populated north has more people. Once again, here's a flag map of the countries that have similar populations to each of the provinces and territories of Canada. For example, Ontario has around the same population as Zimbabwe. And here's the text version as well. And just like Wonder Why, I thought it would be pretty funny to swap the most populated division with the largest division in size, i.e., the most populated one, Ontario, becomes the largest one by area, Nunavut. As you can see, the only one who stayed the same is Quebec, who makes number 2 on both lists. This next one will be a short one, as we'll be talking about population density. The most densely populated division is Prince Edward Island at 27.27 square kilometers, followed by Nova Scotia at 18.31 and Ontario at 15.9. This is less impressive as you remember that Canada isn't a densely populated country at all, obviously because of how cold it is up north. Unsurprisingly, the top 3 most sparsely populated are the territories Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. Nunavut has a density of 0.02 square kilometers, around the same density as Greenland, the most sparsely populated country or dependency in the world. Here's a look at a density map to show you how sparsely populated Canada is. Our fourth topic for today will be gross domestic product, aka GDP. The division with the most GDP is, not surprisingly, Ontario, followed by Quebec once again at number 2. Ontario's GDP, which is about $1 billion, according to my research at least, relies on its manufacturing and trade hub, with links to the northeast and midwestern United States for its GDP. And if Ontario was its own country, it would be the 20th largest GDP above Switzerland. Saskatchewan, Alberta, Newfoundland, Labrador, and the territories heavily rely on natural resources for its GDP. Speaking of Alberta, I was surprised to learn that it's the 3rd highest GDP in Canada. You would think the 3rd spot would be like British Columbia or something. Unless you realize a huge portion of Alberta's GDP is made up of oil, mining, gas, and quarrying. Now then, the division with the lowest GDPs are, once again, the territories. Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yukon. I'm not really sure why Yukon's GDP is the worst. I searched it up and it seems to be because of weaker financial discipline, along with others. If you guys have any more information about this, please let me know, as I don't really know much about this. It's also worth mentioning that Northwest Territories has the most GDP per capita at $160,899. As always, here's a flag map of the countries that has a similar GDP to each Canadian province and territory, and here's the text version. And now let's cover the entering Confederation section, as in who were the first to join Canada. The first division to join Canada is actually tied between 4 provinces. It started back in July 1st, 1867, when the British provinces of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick formed to become the Dominion of Canada, which would be later known as simply Canada. It formed with 4 provinces: Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. The provinces of Ontario and Quebec formed when the province of Canada was split up in 2. Prior to the province of Canada being formed, it used to be the 2 provinces known as Upper Canada and Lower Canada, which would later unite and then be split up again and renamed Ontario and Quebec. Basically, the 4 provinces joined at the same time. I guess you could make the argument that Ontario was the first, being that's the first one listed on Wikipedia, I guess, or maybe it's the most well known. Or you could also say that Nova Scotia was first, considering that they were the first to get, quote, a responsible government in 1848, but I'm just going to go with the option that they all joined at the same time. Now then, 5th place is also tied with Manitoba and Northwest Territories, both joined at the same time on July 5th, 1870, and 7th is British Columbia, who joined on July 20th, 1871. On the other side of the spectrum, the 4th newest division is also tied between 2, Alberta and Saskatchewan, on September 1st, 1905. 44 years later, the Dominion of Newfoundland would join Canada on March 31st, 1949, which will later be renamed to Newfoundland and renamed again to Newfoundland and Labrador in 2001. And exactly 1 day after Newfoundland's 50th anniversary of entering the Confederation, the territory of Nunavut would join on April 1st, 1999, which was made after splitting from the Northwest Territories due to the people of Nunavut wanting their own government. The name Nunavut is actually Inuktitut for our land. And that's the end of the video. I'm planning on making more of these long form videos if you guys want to watch them. So if you're interested, subscribe. We are almost 30 subscribers away, so that's cool. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like and even a comment. I'll respond to everyone, unless if it's rude, of course. And if you don't like the video, you can let me know what I should do better the next video. And thank you to WonderWhy for creating the Winners and Losers series, to which this video is based on. Alright, have fun, guys.